Hey everyone, it's Aggro from True Champion Gaming, and today we have a fun, really exciting deck list for you guys. It is Fire Polkhawk as the thumbnail shows. So this is not our list at all. This is more of a deck review or deck highlight. This is actually Brytwing's list, who took it to a regionals and actually placed top 8 with it. So congrats to him. Seriously, super big accomplishment, man. That's really cool. Happy for you. But let's jump into the list. And if you have any questions, I'm sure Brytwing would be more than happy to answer them for you. We're just going to do an overview of it, like I said. Nothing like super in depth, but just kind of like get you, kind of show the reasons why you might want to play this deck, or the highlights of it essentially. So we are Spirit of Fire. We are just draw 7 Spirit. We do get a level 1 Polkhawk, but we do not need the Serene Spirit because we are an aggro deck, so we want as many resources as possible. Like I said, level 1 Polkhawk. So unfortunately, we do not go to level 2, but level 1 is very, very big. It's a game changer for aggro, fire aggro, specifically Ranger, because of that distant mechanic, and that this gives you the next ally you play distant. So specifically Ranger allies, not just any ally. So we have bodies that can hit the board, and as soon as we play them, it's a 3-drop, and it hits for 4 or hits for 5. I think there's a 5 cost, swing for 5, but there's a lot of power behind just putting down a dude that can swing a bunch for on one turn, and then we just give it distant on the next turn, then it's going to swing for a bunch again as well. So Polkhawk is just giving us that level 1 Polkhawk is going to give us that huge burst potential that we need to really push the deck into the next level. We are just backup charger. Like I said, we're in an aggro deck, so we're going to play this card pretty much every deck is playing it. Not almost every deck, but I would say about 80% of decks are playing it and are messing around with other stuff. But in an aggro deck, it's very nice to have that extra draw card. Flash Grenade. Like I said, we're not going to level 2, so we might have like a couple extra pieces of float, and this is essentially draw a card when we are level 1, and can help us protect some damage from us with that prevent 3 damage to a distant unit you control. So it can be ourselves, it might be an ally that we want to keep alive, but really, I get the feeling it's just in there for the draw when we have that extra float. Framework Sidearm. Honestly, to me, this is one of the cards that really puts the deck together, because we are not going that level 1 Diana, so we need to have a gun to be able to utilize bullets, and since we can't just get rid of our lineage, our level 1 lineage to do that, Framework Sidearm allows us to bring out a gun in our main phase, which is huge. You'd have to pay 3 for it, so it is a little expensive, but hopefully we're able to do so we actually get some effects later on. Plus, we only need to do this once we have a bullet, so we can wait on this. We don't have to activate it right away, or maybe if we happen to have a little extra cards in hand that we know we're not going to use, then Framework Sidearm can just be brought out then. Nullifying Mirror. Nullifying Mirror is a great card right now. It stops a lot of decks, a lot of annoying things, from Revitalizing to Revitalizing Cleanse to Veiling Breeze to Luxem Reveals, so you have to put cards down in memory. Honestly, it's a really handy, good utility card. Quick Draw Piercer. This is really, really cool. We can bring this out, and we can break it and draw a card. That's really nice. It's essentially a GCR when we have 2 bullets and we know we can kill some, swing with them to break this, to take the durability down on it. But more importantly, we do have a card that actually allows us to get rid of it right away. So essentially becomes a GCR that facilitates some damage as well, but we have to get rid of a card to do so, but it's like a free 4 damage. You probably know what I'm talking about if you have played Fire Aggro. Quicksilver Grail. We are actually not on GCR. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff you can put under this, one of them being Flash Grenade, one of them maybe even being Quick Draw. I don't know why you do that other than try to surprise your opponent. Stuff like maybe a Tariff Ring also could go into there. It allows a lot of utility, a lot of mind games for your opponent to not know what you're doing exactly. So I think that's why it's in here. I think GCR also probably would still be a good card as well. Tariff Ring. I think this can also be swapped out depending on your meta for a Safeguard Amulet because of protection, but in an ally v ally matchup, this is really nice to have to save off your board, to protect your board, sorry, and maybe if they are an aggressive deck or a deck that swings a lot, maybe something like Nico, where it's swinging for damage, then Tariff Ring's really nice on that too. Speaking of Viridian Protective Trinket, of a protective card, Viridian Protective Trinket is really, really nice against water. Makes all their water cards on your turn cost 2 more to play. That's just a lot of utility and a lot of safety again with that. If they thought they could counter stuff, now they can't. Water Bobble, I can see that this deck is really scared of water. I do not have the sideboard built, but in the side there is also a wind bauble, so you can swap those out when you're against wind. Fire is not really in the meta right now, so these cards, the fire bauble, you could put it in the sideboard. I probably wouldn't main it, but water is very, very prevalent, and wind is probably one of the second most colors played right now. And then Contraband Revolver. I'll read this card just in case you're unfamiliar with it. It's a 0-cost 1/1 Ranger gun. On attack, which is a class bonus Ranger. If the attacker is attacking a champion, Contraband Revolver gets +2 for the attack. So essentially it's a 0-cost 3/1. If we have a bullet on board, we can swing for more. Maybe an extra 2, 3, 4 damage. So that's a lot of just damage for a very little cost, essentially. So that's the material deck. Let's move on to the main board. So we're going to start off with essentially our cantrips, or the cards that we're going to our action cards, cards that just do stuff, not the allies, essentially. And we're talking about 4 Backstep. 4 Backstep is a lot of Distant Giver. It replaces itself, so it's really nice to put down a guy after going level 1, swing with it because it has Distant and it's, hitting for a lot, and then come back to our turn, maybe it's still alive, we can give it Distant again in our Recollection, and then it can, or on their opponent's turn, either one. And then we get to draw a card, replace itself. We didn't lose anything, but we are able to give our ally Distant again. So Backstep, is a very, very solid card. 4 Vermilion Decree. There's a lot of damage, a lot of card, in one card. Vermilion Decree, it's one of those cards that just allows us to really pump damage really quickly if we need to, or kill off the little things on board, or again, maybe just cycle. Probably wouldn't use it just for cycle, but if that's the worst case scenario, at least we can cycle it. It is giving our opponent a resource, so be careful when you're using it. But mainly it's there to push damage and replace itself. That's why it's so good. We do run a 3 of, or I should say Brytwing runs a 3 of Blazing Throw. This is great with all these cheap weapons that we have. We have a Contraband. We have Quick Draw is probably your #1 go-to weapon to do so with, because it does draw you a card when you use it, and then Framework Sidearm. So these are our cards that we get to mess around with Blazing Throw. Again, like I said, it's probably mainly for quick draw because you get to swing with it and then also throw it away if you need to. But you can just bring these out for a quick 4 damage if you need to. Don't forget about that in the deck. So 3 Blazing Throw there. 1 Surging Bolt, similar to a Blazing Throw. It's just going to push damage face. In this case, though, I think it's just an aggressive card. It's not bad in any way. It's just like maybe they have Taunters or Interceptors, and you don't have any Blazing Throws, but you do have this in hand. You can just get around stuff. That's really nice. Rocket Jump, a semi-defensive card, semi-offensive card. You could technically push damage to face with this card, but most likely it's going to kill off something like a buff Frostwind Paladin, because it is going to give, let's say, your champion Distant, which is going to allow him to swing for more if he has range. I don't think level 1 Polkhawk actually has range. Let me double check that real quick here. Yeah, no, level 1 Polkhawk does not have range at all, but it could also save off a ally. That's probably the bigger reason to do it. Give your ally, Distant, and then also kill the attacking unit, so your unit doesn't die, and another unit can swing for more damage. So it is a costly card. It is going to cost us 5 if we're not Polkhawk and 3 if we are, so just be aware of that. Deploy Gun Shield. I think this is just a card to protect your gun, of course, so when you're swinging, it doesn't just get blown up, but before it's swinging, it gets blown up. And of course, put Floating Armor in the drop. Nothing too crazy to talk about with that card. Here's 2 really defensive cards. So first of all, Under Fire stops a lot of damage coming face with stuff like Icebound Slam. That's probably the main reason. You'd rather not, of course, hit yourself for 4, but if you would choose a choice between your opponent being able to hit you for 8 and you taking 4, you're going to take the 4 instead, right? And not only does it do that, but if you do this on activation of Icebound Slam, they're not going to get the mill either. So they have, if there's no targets on your board, if you have no allies or anything like that. So yeah, just a solid defensive card there. And then something which I think is just mainly if there's a bunch of allies, in the game. I mean, ally v ally matchup. I believe in Brightwing's locals there were a couple of wind allies like Robos and all that kind of stuff. Wind automatons. Innervate Fury is really good. Allows you to D-level. We get to use level 1 Polkhawk effect again, which is actually huge. It's a lot of power there, like I was talking about earlier. So that's kind of cool with that. Next up, we have 4 bullets here. Focusing Round, new card from ALC Alter. Replace itself, really, really nice. So we can just put this on board, get a bullet on board so we can know that we can bring out a gun and actually utilize its effect. It does cost 2 to load it, which is a very steep cost to me. I wouldn't be surprised if Brytwing felt like maybe this is a little bit big of a hindrance. I would actually be curious to ask him myself, because I also love Polkhawk. I don't know if you guys know that. I like all the weird, champions, so like Alan and Mordred, that don't quite do too well, but that's okay. Focusing around is just a bullet that we can run and replace itself, which is very, very important in an ally deck, an aggressive deck, I should say. And then for Incinerate Shot, this is just a very powerful card. It is a 1 cost, possible to do 4 in 1 card, and we're pairing it with Contraband, that we're doing a 1 cost to deal 7 damage. Again, that's just a lot of damage. That does a lot of face damage to help us push a lethal. And now we're finally getting to the allies of the deck. It's kind of separated into 2 chunks here. There's the distant and ranged units and the non-distant ranged units. So to Arthur, great turn 1 play. You don't want to see it too much in the late game when your hand is really, really low influence and you're just trying to close out the game, because it's just going to feel like a super dead card. So I get why there's only 2 in here, but allows us to push more damage if it is a turn 1 play that we happen to hit. 3 Hasty, it's just a solid 2-drop 1/2 that's going to allow us to cycle those bad cards out of our hand. There's not a ton of floating memory in this deck, like I was saying, so this is just going to allow us to push a little damage. People are usually worried about it as a threat, and so they try to clear it off as soon as possible. That's also kind of works in your favor, because it's going to they're going to want to kill this and loot, so you don't gain a bunch of resources, but we don't have too many resources to actually gain from it, and so it protects our other more important allies on board. We have 3 Blazing Bowmen, just a really aggressive card, pairs well with Hasty Messenger to help put fire on the drop. I think this is one of the only fire graveyard cards in the deck, so this deck is not very susceptible to something like Lantern, which is really, really nice. Blazing Bowman is just, like I said, a really aggressive card. It's similar to that Surging Bolt that we had, that Surging Bolt, which is a 1-of. This is essentially, it's a 1-of, but it's kind of the 4th Blazing Bowman essentially in this, honestly, because they both hit for 4 for 3, for a cost of 3. So that's all that is there. When we are at a really low influence, I'm sure this deck can get really low really quickly. Rococo is amazing. It is a 1 cost deal, essentially 3. If you have an Arthur, it's going to deal 4. It's a really aggressive statted card, because we could have this and Blazing Throw in our hand, and now we have a 2 card, like in 2 other cards, now we have 7 damage just from 2 cards. That's really, really good stat lines for all that kind of stuff. We have a 3 of Volatile Fusilier. Fusilier? I don't even know how to say that. This is a 1-drop 1/1 with range 2. On enter, you can have this deal 4 damage to yourself. If you do, it gains distance. So it's a 1-drop 3/1. Again, a really aggressive stat line, similar to Rococo. It is going to hurt us, but we can gain some value out of that, which is really, really nice. Next, we have a 4 of Airship Cannoneer. So this is, not the craziest card. We can play something like our aggressive stat line ally, which we're about to get to, that is already distant, and then drop an Airship Cannoneer after the fact to help replace itself, and then just get a little, another little beater on board. Nothing too crazy there. It can be the first one that you play with Polkhawk, so it could affect, you can get the effect on itself from level 1 Polkhawk, but mainly it's to drop a different beater on board and then play that card. Or we could play this in conjunction with the card we were just talking about, the 1 cost Volatile, because it can make itself distant for 1, and then we get the effect of the Airship Cannoneer on enter effect. And that's really, really nice. Fiery Duelist. It does put another fire cycle card in the drop. It can be a 3-drop 3/1, which is again a really nice statted aggressive stat line. It's essentially like a Blitz Mage in that case, but allows us to cycle. Again, can help trigger the Airship Engineer on enter, which is really nice. Nothing too crazy there with that card. And now the really big beater. So we have a 4 of Airship Cannoneer. This is a 4-drop, but it can hit for 6, and it can make itself distant, which is huge, right? So we don't have to just. This is the other fire. This is the other fire graveyard card I should talk about. I forgot there is one more. This is similar to like a Blazing Bowman in the fact that for 1 turn, it's essentially. It's very similar. As you can see, it's a 4-drop 2/3, but it can become a 4-drop 6/3 if we banish 3 Fire Emblem cards. So it's similar to Blazing Bowman, but definitely a little bit heftier cost, but for much more damage and a bigger body after the fact, which is really, really nice. This is a great one to also drop with Polkhawk level 1. Even if you don't have 3 Fire Element cards in the drop, you can still swing for 6, which is really nice. And probably the best card we can use with level 1 Polkhawk is Automaton Bomber. So it's a 3-cost 1/2, but it has ranged 4, so it can become a 3-drop 5/2, which is a lot of damage, and has floating memory. So we can actually pitch this off of any of our cycle cards, or if it dies, it's put some floating in the drop. We can go into that flash grenade bomb. What's it called? Yeah, flash grenade, and then we can utilize the floating memory from that. So that's really, really nice. It's just a very solid card to go along with the level 1 Polkhawk, and a beater that people have to be afraid of with something like backstep or something that's giving it distant, because it can start hitting for a lot really, really quickly. And then just Trained Sharpshooter. It's a 3-drop 2/3, so it's always good stat lines. And then if you happen to give it range, cool. It's a 3-drop 4/3 for the turn. Nothing too crazy there. It's just a very solid card. That's it for the deck, guys. The link is down below. Like I said, congrats to Brytwing. If you want to check out the sideboard, I didn't bring it. I didn't build it. I did remember that I could build it, but my thoughts are always with sideboards and with changing metas is that depending on your local area and who is playing and what's being brought or what's being played currently in the meta, that will change. So take a look at it. Like I said, the link is below. Congrats to Brytwing, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.